And we are live and recording.
Hello, everybody, though I know nobody's there yet. This is the first live recording that the Umbral Theater is putting out. We have been putting out podcasts we've been recording podcasts for over a year now, and this is the first time we've done something live. So this is experimental for us. We're going to do our best. We hope you enjoy it. And after we play tonight, we are going to upload this definitely to YouTube, hopefully also to Podbean. This might be a little bit rough, so thank you in advance for working with us. So, I have notes here that I forgot to get ready because I was screwing around with audio. Okay. Tonight, we're going to be playing the game Thirsty Sword Lesbians by April Kit Walsh, produced by Evil Hat Productions. This is a game using the Powered by the Apocalypse engine. It is very, very queer and very, very fantastical. The game is based around concepts from shows such as She-Ra and Steven Universe, where things are definitely different in the world, and there's adventure and magic and technology and space stuff and all sorts of fun things. But the world itself is a lot more open than the world we live in now. And some of the differences that we struggle with and some of the experiences that we struggle with day to day are much easier to do battle against in the world of fiction than it is in the real world. We're going to start out by introducing everyone who's playing here. I am Mr. Bear. I use any and all pronouns, and I am the host of our other show, our other primary show, Expeditions of the Extra Normal, which has been going for 37 episodes now, using Monster of the Week, another fantastic Powered by the Apocalypse game. I will be the game master, and I will be running the show, so to speak. I'm here to ensure that the world exists and follows the rules we've set forth. I'm here to facilitate the discussion that is this game, and I'm here to ensure all of our players and all of our listeners have a great time. Next, I'm going to have Sorel introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Sorel. I use she, her pronouns. I don't have my camera on tonight because I'm experiencing some technical issues, but it should be on the next time we do this. I'm the Mr. Ceremonies for the Umbral Theater's production of Weirdwood Academy, which we've only put a few episodes of up, but many more have been recorded, and we're just getting our way back to it.
Yeah, that editing bottleneck is a beast.
Yeah. What else did you want me to say?
That's fine for now. That's
Okey-dokey. Looking forward to the game.
And Gavin, if you would introduce yourself, please.
No problem at all. Hi, my name's Gavin. I have been a player on the Expeditions of the Extra Normal for its entirety, and I use he, him pronouns, and I'm very excited to be here, having another little foray here. Looking forward to it.
Cassie, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Cassie. She, her pronouns. I am fairly new to gaming with this group, but I'm very excited to play Thirsty Sword Lesbians. Yeah, I've been in a few episodes of Weirdwood Academy as well, but those have not been released yet.
And Rich.
Hi guys, I'm Rich. I go by he, him pronouns. This is my first time playing Thirsty Sword Lesbians, but I'm super excited for. My character will be they, them, and that's my first time playing a character that does not go by my typical pronouns. I am on the Weirdwood Preparatory Academy podcasting crew, and I play a werewolf there, and I'm looking forward to when you guys get to listen to more of our really gritty episodes, but also join us for what we're streaming here tonight. So hope you guys enjoy our first night streaming.
Thank you very much, everybody. So that's our crew, and we hope you have fun. Now, one of the things I love about Thirsty Sword Lesbians is that it has a very elaborate, very detailed game start guide. A lot of games just throw you right in, but this gives you a very solid step-by-step that we're going to go through to make sure everybody is ready to play. In addition, my apologies for any stray meowing in the background. My cats do not always behave when it comes time to record. So, step 1, gather game materials. To play, each person needs a pencil or some other thing to write with, a pair of 6-sided dice, a copy of the playbook they're going to use, playbook being essentially the classes of this game. They need a copy of the basic moves reference sheet, which is available online at swordlesbians.com. A copy of the relationship worksheet, which I have here, also available at swordlesbians.com. A copy of the palette, and we'll go over what the palette is and entails in just a few minutes. And a check-in card and an X card, which are safety and consent tools that we will explain a little bit further in. Just need 1 second here. There we go. So, we've spent some time making sure we were all prepared to go before we began the game. So, we're going to move on to the second step, the pitch. The pitch is a basic scenario. And one of the things we're looking at, one of the things you do is when you start out, you discuss the sort of game you're going to play and get an idea of how many sessions that you're going to run, how often they run, things like that to get everybody all on the same page so that we can all focus on playing the game in a way that enhances everybody. Tonight's game, I unfortunately don't have a witty, clever name for it yet, but hopefully we will by the time tonight is over, is a game that takes place 15 minutes into the future. It is a world where science and technology have advanced beyond what we have in the modern day. But it isn't as widespread. For the average person, day-to-day life is very similar to how it is today. But for a variety of the ultra-elite or ultra-wealthy, they have access to personal flying devices and 3D hologram machines, and corporations and industries have 15-foot tall robot suits to make laborers 10 times as productive as they are today. The moon has been colonized and is controlled by a major corporation. And the Earth is sick of it, and she has decided to fight back. Now, we're planning on running this game weekly for about 6 to 8 weeks, to tell our first story. Once we're done, we will have a discussion on what we're going to do from there. If we want to keep trying live shows, if we're going to continue with this game or explore into other games. But for now, we want to focus on an enjoyable experience that will get us all through the next 2 months. The third step is safety and consent. Before we start, let's talk about safety. This is just a game. Taking care of one another is the most important thing. Our characters might say or do things we wouldn't say or do to each other, but we don't want to tell our story in a way that hurts or upsets each other. So let's agree to be caring and respectful of each other. Can we agree to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
We'll also look out for one another and speak up for our needs with safety tools. We've created a palette to share what we're excited about or don't want to see in the game. Now, the palette is one of those safety tools I had mentioned earlier. And with the palette, which I will show briefly on camera, it's probably backwards and you won't be able to read it, but we'll do what we can here. With the palette, we've discussed things we're excited about, things we don't want to include, and then lines and veils. Lines are things that we will find inappropriate for this game, and we refuse to have them play any part of the story. Veils are things that, while we may use to make the story more interesting from time to time, it's not something we want to focus on, and it's something we preferably want to keep behind a curtain. It's kind of a fade to black situation where if something comes up that's a line, we don't do it. If something that comes up that's a veil, oh yes, this happened, we'll move past it and we won't linger on the scene. So, we're going to start out with things that we are excited about for this game. We've got a great list here. We got transformations, mechs, emotional interpersonal roleplay, space monsters, bumbling secret agents, giant robots, betrayal, atonement and growth, and frenemy situations. For things we have seen that we don't want to include, women in peril as primary motivators. We don't want to have characters who are essentially whose sole purpose is to exist, to be kidnapped or captured or threatened to provide motivation for other characters. It's a trope that is very common in a lot of media, and it's one we want to try to avoid. The other thing we have listed on the list of don't include is abusers without reprisal. It looks as though that the players here are okay with some level of abusive relationships existing within the world, but they want the abusers to be villains and people you can work against and fight against. And I am 100% behind that and in full agreement. For lines and veils, the lines that our players have come up with are violence against children, sexual violence, and serious fetish play. So we will avoid those in their entirety. And for veils, we have children in general. While children definitely aren't going to be abused or attacked in this story, they may appear as set dressing and won't have any primary impact or primary roles to play inside the game itself. The other one listed as a veil is explicit sexual content. We will not be going into how your character gets it on with the Baroness. Romance is on the table, and adult situations are on the table, but once it makes it to the bedroom, we will be fading to black. Now, does anyone have anything they would like to add or any questions?
I do not.
All good here.
Nothing from me.
Me neither.
Now, one important part of the palette is that anyone can add to it at any time. So just because we don't have something listed now doesn't mean that we might encounter something down the road that makes somebody uncomfortable. If we do, we will add it to the palette and make sure that we expand what we're comfortable with or make further note of what we're not. The second safety tool we will be working with is the X card. The X card is used to remove something you don't want in the story. No justification, no explanation needed. If something happens that bothers you or upsets you or you feel is taking the story in a direction you're not comfortable with, all you need to do is hold up that card with an X on it. Does anyone have one handy to show us? There we go. If we see one of those X's, we immediately adjust what's happening and try to make things friendlier for the whole table. The last tool we have is the check-in card. We got a check-in card. There we go. Perfect. The check-in card is used to create a little bit of breathing space and confirm that somebody is still holding up okay in what can occasionally be very significant roleplay with a lot of emotions and the potential for bleed. Bleed being a term to express when the emotions of your character and what's happening in the game might bleed over and affect you as a player. That check-in card is designed to ask very simply, hey, are you okay? This way you can do it without breaking the tone of a scene or the rhythm. You can just keep playing and you flash that check-in card and it tells people if we need to take a second or we need to step back and adjust things, we can do that too. How does everyone feel about these safety tools we've got?
I'm on board.
Solid.
Yep, works for me.
Seems well designed to make sure that we're all in good spaces.
Okay, the next step is the scenario. In some cases, when you're playing Thirsty Sword Lesbians, there is an additional level of world building where everybody comes together to create a shared world for the game to explore. In this case, we are exploring a world that I have created, so we won't be going through step 4. The only thing we will touch on for step 4 is the concept of toxic powers. Toxic powers in Thirsty Sword Lesbians are typically the villains and the enemies of the game. They're people in the game who have abused their power or taken something that doesn't belong to them or made life difficult for others needlessly. We have 2 primary toxic powers in place currently within the game world. The first one is the Sputnik Corporation. The moon was colonized, but it is controlled primarily by the Sputnik Corporation. They are a Russian-based technology division that has more money than most governments and a private security force that rivals many armies. They are primarily a threat within the world itself. They are attacking society and trying to force conformity and trying to bring everything under their economic control. Some people fall in line behind Sputnik. They offer safety that many others do not. If you work for Sputnik, the Sputnik security is outstanding. And they are the most advanced technological force on the planet. So many people who are scientists and engineers support them because that is the best way to gain funding and to gain access to information and materials. They are headed by Colonel Leonid Sputnik, who is the face and founder of the company. His daughter, Ilyana Sputnik, is the vice president of research and is far more likely to be seen on Earth than her father. The other toxic power is an entity that the vast majority of the planet is unaware of at this time. And unfortunately for our players, they are currently unaware of it as well. Now we get to step 5 of the start guide. Teach the basics of the rules. We're telling a story together. When you say what your character does, I'll say how the world or others react. Sometimes it's fun to be surprised by what happens, so when your characters do those things, we'll roll dice to find out. If I ask you to roll, you will always roll 2 6-sided dice and add them up. Usually, you'll be adding something to the total, like a stat. The total number tells us if the story has an upbeat, a mixed beat, or a downbeat. Downbeats don't necessarily mean the character fails. They just mean something interesting will happen to complicate things for your character. You'll see how this works when we play, and if you have questions, I'll help. For now, let's get familiar with the stats and how they're used. Daring represents skill at arms and forcefulness, both in terms of muscle and personality. Grace represents elegance, poise, and agility. Heart represents emotional awareness and expression. Wit represents cleverness and knowledge. Spirit represents metaphysical power and integrity. Each stat improves your chance of an upbeat with a certain move. If you think your character is going to be good at fighting, you might choose to put more into daring or grace. If you see your character as keen or insightful, you might choose wit so you can figure people out. If you envision your character connecting more with others through earnest expression or allure, you might choose more heart for the entice move. Or if you think they're good at comforting others, you might choose heart or spirit to provide more emotional support. And if your character has a lot of integrity and wants to remain true to themselves, if they have to call on a toxic power, maybe you'll choose more spirit. There are no wrong choices. This game is for all kinds of sword lesbians. Do we have any questions?
None here.
All good.
None from me.
Nope.
Okay. Now we're ready to make characters. To save time, I believe almost everybody, if not everybody, has already got their character ready to go. Is there anyone who'd like to start us off?
Sure. I will dive into the deep end for us, James.
Sounds good.
All right. So, Dane Hopkins goes by they, them pronouns, as I had said previously, is the infamous. Dane's past was not the brightest. The infamous once participated in wicked deeds, but they've become fiercely righteous in trying to atone. Their central conflict arises from the lasting consequences of their past actions and beliefs versus their new convictions. Will they repair the harm they caused? Will they seek forgiveness? Or will they despair? Will they find a new place to belong? The aesthetics for Dane, they kind of stand in a challenging demeanor. Wear clothing that is seen as dangerous. And on their hip, they hold a wicked sword. James, would you like me to go into the stats I picked as well?
Well, first, before we even get there, tell me what that means to you.
The aesthetics or the background?
The aesthetics. We will definitely cover your background as well.
Dane used to be part of Sputnik's private security, and has seen more of the harsher reality that they used to enforce, and had some insight and some interpersonal decisions to make, and turned away from that. But being an enforcer, they stand with a straight posture, very rigid, kind of a resting bitch face, if you will. And the clothes that they wear represent the station that they have held before, of on the front lines, getting their hands dirty, and always just in the fray. The sword has seen some wear and tear, but it is definitely upkept with the rigidity of that sort of life, of repetition and a code to hold, that has been put in question recently and has caused them to turn away from Sputnik.
So what caused you to turn away from Sputnik?
Seeing a lot of the pain that this corporation held over people that they had become attached to and cared for. And that strain, though they believed Sputnik to be what was best for everyone, realized that though the public face of Sputnik might be one of help, what it was truly doing was oppressing more, and just really having a great PR campaign that didn't practice what it preached.
And who are these people you cared for that Sputnik hurt?
I don't know if I want my fellow comrades to know that yet. I would think I might want that to be a little just RP that we get into, and some stuff that they learn about Dane over time.
That is perfect. So let's quickly go over your stats and starting moves.
Oh, shoot. Starting moves. That's the one I forgot about. I'm sorry. Stats, I have a 2 in daring, a -1 in grace, 0 heart, 0 wit, and 2 in spirit.
Sounds good.
So they're a little, when it comes to their emotions, there are some walls up and still kind of struggling with their own emotional discovery. Starting moves.
Well,
okay, choose 2 more. That's what it says.
The most important thing we need to answer right now is, The move what cannot be undone. You've hurt
Oh.
people and they have no obligation to forgive you or engage with you.
Okay.
So, we need to determine what your wicked past was.
Okay. So I'm the thing that I was not going to reveal earlier, I'm now going to reveal. So,
Okay.
all right, here we go. So Dane was sent to enforce a section of the world through Sputnik's orders, and when they landed boots to ground, they were not expecting it to be a very familiar place. And the individuals hurt were people Dane had grown up with, had a romantic interest with, that clearly turned very sour very fast during this unforgivable slaughter of individuals.
And you took part in this slaughter?
Had a bit of a Finn moment of did a little bit and then realized, yeah, this ain't for me. And that was when Dane ducked out and has been on the run since.
Okay. So, we need to ask the other players what circumstances or subsequent deeds could make it possible to forgive this past.
I mean, I think sufficiently working to save people and make the world an actively better place is a great start.
Or you could turn yourself in.
It's going to be a very quick campaign.
Cassie, your thoughts?
Yeah. Aside from Sorrel stole my answer, but also
That's okay. You can have the same answer.
out about the injustices that your characters saw. Working to shed light on that.
Okay. So now that we've gotten input from the other players, the next thing we need to ask you is, what personal growth are you proud of?
I'd say the rose-tinted shades having been removed enough to make the decision to actively turn away is the growth that Dane is most proud of.
Okay. The next one is, what part about your past causes you the most grief? And I think we've covered that.
Yep.
And you swore to never again perform certain actions that could lead to harm. What are they? Now, this is an important mechanical question. Whatever you have vowed that you will never do again, if you do it, you immediately stagger.
Okay. Does it have to be anything from that list, or can I...
Anything that's you feel would be appropriate.
Okay.
If it's something a little too specific, I might give you a side eye.
Okay.
But I don't think that will be a problem.
Making uninformed decisions. Or is that too specific?
No, I think that could be an interesting way to go. Your character has stopped rushing into things, and I can see situations coming up where your character may be frozen, unable to move without following up on information you don't have. So I do think that could be a very interesting story.
I just figure someone who's just used to, I follow orders, I don't ask questions.
Now
going
you ask
from-
questions.
Right.
Okay, so let's look at your playbook moves.
Gain a string.
Well, we can start with Wicked Past.
Okay.
When you hear about a villain for the first time, you may decide that you know them from your past. If so, give them a string on you to ask a question from the Figure Out a Person list and take +1 forward against them.
Okay. Make it right. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable to someone you hurt during your villainous past, they choose 1. Decline to engage, they gain a string on you. Lash out, you stagger. Guide you, they mark XP and give you a task to help make amends. Show vulnerability, you take 1 forward to interact with them. Forgive you. You each clear a condition, and this move no longer triggers with this person.
And then you have 2 additional.
Yes. I have yet to choose those, and I'm trying to do that right now.
It's okay. We can come back to you.
That works.
Okay. So who would like to go next?
I can.
Sounds good. Sorrel, if you would.
Hi, I'm Verdant Moonwillow. Also she, her pronouns. I am playing the Spooky Witch playbook. The Spooky Witch is a weirdo who does their own thing while craving connection. They've found that many monsters are quite friendly if you give them a chance, but befriending them brands you a monster as well. Their central conflict lies in navigating pressures to conform versus their own desires or those of their monstrous friends. I'm kind of distant from people. I don't really fit in with the group. A bit on the fluffy side. And I dress in like industrial black. Everything. From boots to hair. Except for a bright purple choker that I wear all the time. With the black void type clothing, it kind of stands out. Also, as far as anyone can tell, I don't have a sword. But those who've seen me fight know I can make one if I need it. I am not very daring or graceful, with a +0 in each. Very out of my depth in emotional awareness, with a -1 heart. But I'm very clever and knowledgeable, with a +2 wit and +2 spirit.
So, one of the aspects of the playbook for the Spooky Witch is the unseen.
Yes.
The unseen are kind of like spirits or fairies or some sort of mysterious beings that most people can't see. Some people, most people probably don't believe in them. But you have the ability to contact them and ask them for aid.
Yep.
What sort of things are these unseen?
I believe them to be spirits of nature and belief. Things that have gained sort of a sentience through people thinking that they are so. Like monsters have always existed in the woods, but with the resurgence of people believing in monsters, they have gotten more powerful and more in number, and they have the spirit of them kind of permeates the world. I don't know if that's actually true. Haven't really wanted to question it too hard because it's kind of one of the main foundations of my reality, and I would probably be devastated if I learned otherwise.
Okay, then. So, where did Verdant come from?
She was brought up in a mansion in New England, but her parents were very absent, and she was kind of left to fend for herself and watch over herself from a very young age, and spent most of her time in the library, and had her first experience with the I had my first experience with the unseen when I was 6, I think. Might have been before that, but I don't remember. But I tripped in the hallway and almost fell down the stairs, and hand grabbed me and pulled me back, but there was nobody else in the house at the time. And ever since then, I've worked on getting to know the things that go bump, because sometimes bumps are just something shifting around and not meant to cause terror. I think the unseen want us to go back to a more natural way of living, more in harmony with things, rather than the frankly bad things that humanity's been doing the past couple centuries.
So, as a spooky witch, you have several playbook moves.
Yes.
What do you got?
My first move is I like snails. When I am smitten with someone and figure them out, I may blurt out something weird, and they get to ask me a question from the list of figure it out questions. Then I get to ask them another question from the list, even if I got a 6-. I have the Eerie Companion move. I have a little pet monster. Whenever I can choose to have it help me when I roll for defy disaster or figure out a person, and it gives me a +1 when I make those moves.
And what sort of monster do you have?
That's a surprise for later. When it assists me, it's going to be very obvious and very alarming to ordinary people.
Sounds good.
Also, it lets me speak with monsters. The move, not the monster. Pet. And the other move that I have is Talk Nerdy to Me, which allows me to roll wit instead of heart to entice someone. And I have a special study of interest. I have top-tier knowledge of cryptids. Monsters and such.
That's great.
I always am prepared with an interesting fact, and sometimes even a useful fact. when I come across something within that area of expertise, and either the GM provides that information or I make it up.
Sounds great. Next, we're going to check back in with Dane. Do you have your things picked yet? Okay, what do you got, Dane?
I have Talons of the Past. When you gain a string on someone associated with your villainous past, or vice versa, mark XP. The first time this happens, for a given person, you each can define a secret or vulnerability you know about the other. The second one is, who's the monster? When you expose the hypocrisy of someone who is supposedly virtuous, roll plus daring. 10 plus, gain a string on them and choose one. 7 through 9, choose one. Wrongness of their act is exposed to all. They mark XP if they change their mind. If they don't, they must attack you or take a condition. Your words sting. They take a condition. You impress an onlooker. Gain a string on them.
That looks like a fun move. Okay. Who would like to go next?
I'll jump in. Right. I am playing a character named Kayla Swift, she, her pronouns, using the Devoted Playbook. The Devoted is a selfless protector committed to a person or cause. Their central conflict lies in pitting this devotion against self-care. Specifically, Kayla is going to be devoted to the notion and ideal of justice. She's very idealistic, slightly naive and young, but she grew up in a fairly structured environment, albeit in poverty, and has kind of seen firsthand how the effects of mega corporate control wear on the lower classes of society. So she does have a bit of a hard demeanor on the outside, despite being so idealistic. Got some sturdy, very well-worn clothes. Couple holes here and there. Boots obviously have seen better days. And a well-worn sword on her hip, or that she wears on her hip. Shall I go into stats?
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay. As far as stats go, she's a +2 to daring. It's not very graceful. 0 grace. 0 heart. 0 wit, but a +1 to spirit.
Okay. So I've got a question for you now.
Yes.
I'm sorry, could you do your stats one more time?
Yes. It was... Oh, wait, I messed up a stat. But yes, +2 to daring, 0 grace, 0 heart. It's supposed to be a +1 to wit and a +1 to spirit.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So my next question for you is: you're devoted to justice, you said, right?
Yes.
What does justice mean to you?
That's a good question. So to Kayla, justice is going to come in the form of equality for all. She's very egalitarian. She doesn't like to see people suffer, and while others have so much excess.
So, what 3 tenets of your devotion have you found yourself tempted to violate?
Let's see. I think for her, and this is something I had trouble with thinking of the character. It's going to... I mean, everyone is going to be tempted by excess at some point. And...
What sort of excess tempts you?
Yeah. So Kayla has never had a whole bunch of money or resources or even, say, enough food on the table. So if she's presented with, lottery winnings, for example, or a whole bunch of food, that's going to be something she's going to struggle with as far as, what do I keep? What do I give away? How can this benefit society? And what can I do for myself with this? Do I use these things to lift myself up, or can it benefit other people more?
Okay. So, what moves do you have?
Moves. Yes. So she has fanatical self-sacrifice. You may mark a condition to prevent a condition being inflicted on another. When you do, mark XP, and you may only clear that condition by taking the associated destructive action. Mark it with an asterisk to remind yourself. Also, your conditions only cause a -1 penalty to the associated basic moves instead of -2.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then I also chose Power of Conviction. When you entice someone while extolling the virtues of your devotion or invoking its authority, you may roll plus spirit instead of plus heart. A superior in your devotion gains a string on you, representing your dependence. And then Lay on Hands. So when you touch someone as part of emotional support, you heal their physical ailments. Tell them how your devotion sustains you. They mark an XP if they validate your devotion, and you gain a string on them if they criticize it.
Sounds good. That leaves us with 1.
Yes, it does.
Gavin, what do we got?
I will be playing as Dietrich Steiner, who uses he/him pronouns. And Dietrich is going to be a character using the Scoundrel Playbook. The Scoundrel Playbook is about heroes of action and intense physicality whose real central conflicts tend to lie in their urge to explore new horizons versus being able to commit to a purpose or security. He is of an average height, rather pale complexion, with very dark hair with a fashionable dyed streak of white for one of the bangs, and his hair is tied back into a... it is long hair and tied back into a ponytail. He has thin glasses and wears a very fashionable, official-looking clothing, but does not seem to carry a sword on his person.
Okay, let's see. So, why are you so fickle? Is there something about you need to figure out? Or, and you keep looking for it in other people instead? Are you afraid of the vulnerability that comes from investing in a relationship? Is your true love unattainable? Are you just that oblivious? Choose something that you'll be able to grow past to give your character an emotional story arc. You don't need to figure it out immediately, and the scoundrel himself may not know it at all. What playbook moves do we have from the scoundrel? Also, your stats, too. I guess we need those.
Let's start with the stats. I have a +1 daring, a +1 grace, a -1 heart, a +2 wit, and 0 spirit. And for playbook moves, the flagship would be Heat of the Moment, which is when I taunt someone into doing something they want to do but find unwise, I would roll plus daring. And for an NPC on a 10+, they do it in exchange for a small concession or reassurance. And on a 7 to 9, they'll either create an opportunity for myself and my allies or give me a string on them. But for a PC, if I roll a 10+, they mark experience if they do it, and must take a condition if they don't. And for 7 to 9, either they'll get the point of experience if they do it, or they'll take the condition if they don't. I get to choose.
Sounds good.
But for a PC or NPC that I am not already smitten with, I may choose to treat a 7 to 9 result as a 10+ by choosing to become smitten with them. The Scoundrel has a lot of moves that are very focused on the mechanic of becoming smitten. Another being Lust at First Sight. When you become smitten with someone you barely know, declare your undying love and give them a string on you. Lose your smitten status with anyone else who has no string on you. And take +1 forward to any act you think might impress your new interest.
Think is the operative word there.
There's also Shiny and New, a move which is when I give or receive emotional support in an intimate moment with someone new, we both mark experience or clear condition.
And then you get to choose 2 additional?
And I have. The first that I chose was Impressive Swordplay. Whenever I roll a 7 or higher on fighting, I may gain a string on someone who is present, and ask their player what it is about me that has them impressed or has intrigued them. And the other I have chosen has been the Main Attraction. When I make a dramatic entrance, I can roll plus grace. On a 10 or higher, I will choose 2. On a 7 to 9, I will choose 1. Of either all attention is focused on me for a moment, I hold the attention of one person for as long as it takes for me to deliver a dramatic speech, take a string on someone present, or take +1 forward.
Sounds good. So, now that we've gone through all of our characters, it is time to ask character-specific questions. I have a page in this pile somewhere. Sorry, cats have made this less simple than I initially intended. I have a list of relationship questions. And we are going to ask each character a question. We are going to start in alphabetical order with the devoted. Kayla, is another PC an object of your devotion?
That would be a no.
Nobody stands out particularly as like a paragon of justice for you to have that attachment?
Not quite, no.
No worries. The infamous Dane Hopkins. Whom have you wronged the most out of the players? And do they know it was you?
I'm going to say they don't know directly it's been me. Actually, no, I'm going to scratch that. Can I ask the player that I think that I wronged if they know?
Yes,
Or
you
no?
definitely want to ask the person
Okay.
who you're conversing with here to be like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Because this is group storytelling.
Okay. I think Dane has hurt Kayla the most. From the backstory that Kayla has given, I believe that is who I have harmed the most.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
How so? What's the specifics there?
From the backstory that Kayla gave, me being a part of Sputnik and Kayla
We can
coming...
like create extra things and extrapolate and expand. So like, don't feel beholden to what everybody said in a 3-sentence description of their character background.
Okay. Well, Dane being an enforcer, I think I came to Kayla's neighborhood. Wearing a helmet helps, though when I have run into Kayla... Wait, have we met yet, James? Have we all met yet, or no?
Yes, we're going to be starting, I think, in the middle of your second mission together.
Okay. I've modded my armor a little bit from what it used to be at Sputnik, but you can definitely tell that like it is old Sputnik armor. So, Kayla, you probably know that I am a bad person, or at least was.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say I'd recognize the armor and be very hesitant to get too close to you. Yeah.
Sounds good. Next, the Scoundrel. Who were you smitten with until recently?
And for clarity, these questions are very specifically tying the player characters together. And
Yes.
then the appropriate answer for this would be Dane Hopkins.
That is, I think, the right answer.
I think so too.
So, that brings us to the Spooky Witch. Who thinks you're not all that weird?
I believe Kayla's seen some shit.
Yeah, she's seen some shit. I'll type.
So probably Kayla.
Okay. Back to the top, to the devoted again. Kayla, who looks out for you even when you don't look out for yourself?
The group, I'll go with Verdant. I'll say we've had a chance to kind of
Aw.
bond a little bit. I appreciate her weirdness, and in exchange, she maybe kind of looks out for me every so often, if she's okay with that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Dane, who believes in you more than you believe in yourself?
I think Diedrich.
I think that is a very appropriate answer. What say you, Diedrich?
Yes.
And I think that works in wonderful ways. So, back to the scoundrel. Who replaced them in your desire? And this one I feel could be appropriate to be an NPC for you.
Ilyana Sputnik.
That is a fantastic choice. I love these answers everyone is giving. Spooky Witch Verdant. Whom have the unseen warned you about?
Dietrich.
Kayla. Who did you save from a terrible fate?
We'll go with... I want to say it'd be interesting for it to be Dane.
I think that would be really interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dane?
Yeah, it'd be very interesting. Just drive that guilt in a little bit harder, why don't you?
Exactly, yeah.
What did you save them from? Was this what turned Dane around, or was this after you started working together?
I would say it was they were probably already turned around. Maybe I encountered him or them, I'm sorry, in some way after he left Sputnik. They left Sputnik and pointed him in the direction of the organization we work for now. In some way.
If that works for
Not sure
Dane.
if that works.
That works.
Sounds good. So, Dane,
Yes.
who talks to you about things they wouldn't discuss with others because of your past?
I want to say it's Verdant. And my reasoning being it's a source of knowledge for her to use in righting the wrongs of the Sputnik organization.
Verdant?
Sounds excellent to me. My friends are monsters, so one more monster isn't necessarily going to be a bad thing as a friend.
Yeah, I saw that one coming.
Dietrich, who has almost as much flair as you do?
Kayla Swift.
Yeah, all the flair, all of it.
At least.
Yeah, as much as I can muster.
And last question. Verdant, who is your touchstone for what normal is?
As in, who's the most normal?
Who do you consider this is what normal is? When you look at them, you say, this is a normal person.
I don't think anyone in the group. I have no idea. Anyone have any thoughts?
I personally would say Kayla, because my character's a monster, and Kayla is coming from a background, like an impoverished background, and fighting for what's right. Like, this is what, like, it is to be a human, to struggle through and stand up for what you believe in. That's at least my opinion.
I think the other option could also be that Dietrich would be the one you would consider normal. But that's if you have a very poor vision of normal. If you think normal is a bad thing, then Dietrich fits that.
I mean, that's where I was leaning too. As you can probably tell, I do consider normal a bad thing. So yes, Dietrich is my touchstone for normal.
Okay.
You're too kind.
Our questions are finished. So there is a little bit more world building to do right now. You have, as a collective group, in some way or another, been called on to defend the planet. Your current level of commitment to that goal may be up in the air, but when you choose to work for Gaia, the spirit of the planet, you are gifted with magical power, to lack a better word for it. It is the ability to channel the spirit of the earth into arms and armor to protect yourself. It seems to me that it is very likely that Verdant and Kayla have accepted this power and are using this magical gear.
Absolutely, no question. For me.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Dane, you said you are probably still wearing your old armor. Is that because you haven't accepted the Earth's gifts? Is it a psychological thing? Has the Earth's power given you armor akin to the armor you used to wear? What sort of... There's an interesting question and answer in there. And I think we should figure out what's what.
All right.
There is no wrong answer here.
So Richard the player was not expecting this to be the case, but this is what my insight is. Dane being just so used to this armor as like a second skin, it's just like, this is the tool that I'm used to. Like, this, when I am out enforcing or fighting now, like for the betterment of life, it's just what I wear. And to Dane, it is a symbol that things can change. That though once I was you, that's not me anymore. And you can do that too. And that's okay. And Dane has accepted Gaia's gift, and I think it has altered the armor to look different and possibly function different as well. So it has gone through its own, like, from Green Ranger to a White Ranger metamorphosis.
Sounds good. That makes perfect sense. I do know that Dietrich uses mechanical armor currently.
That is correct.
Okay. And with that last bit of preparation, we are going to look at the time real quick, see how far along we are, and how much further we can get. Okay. Let us take a quick 5-minute break so that I can try to fix my microphone stand, and anyone who needs to use the facilities may.
While we're waiting for everyone to return, the Umbral Theater podcast is available on Podbean and a number of other streaming sites. You should take a look at the stuff that we have over there, because we put a lot of work into it and we think it is really fun. And we also have theumbraltheater.com, I think. Bear?
No, we don't have that yet. We've got oh, there's a cat on camera. Hello, cat. This is Lily. She's a mess. We have no real decent website or anything like that, because websites are hard, and this is a side project for most of us, not like the thing that we do for a living.
That's fair.
Okay, get out of here. Get out of here, cat. Oh, here, you can say hi. Okay. Let's see if she stays down this time.
Just wants to be internet famous.
Oh, she's so cute, she could be.
Mm-hmm.
Bam!
Welcome back.
I know, dramatic.
That's okay. You're not the one who has the dramatic entrance ability.
That's very true. I do not have that ability.
But he is the one we're waiting on right now.
No, you're not.
Okay. Now, we don't have a whole lot of time left tonight, but we're going to set the scene for the first major conflict. We open on an aerial view of a dense jungle. There are a flock of birds flying by, and the sounds of all manner of flora and fauna just existing in the natural chaotic state of the jungle. But it is quickly cut through by terrible mechanical tearing and crunching. We zoom in and find a Sputnik company oil drilling operation in the darkest heart of the rainforest. There are 24 Sputnik shock troopers in their military uniforms. Their jackbooted, pseudo-mechanical, low-grade power armor is a sight people across the world are terrified to see. Their giant, tank-like destructive drills are tearing a hole in the pristine, untouched earth. As deforestation machines with giant blades spinning at the end of wicked arms are mulching the land around it. Luckily for the rainforest, though, the players are on the scene to defend nature. We start in the order of the cameras on my screen with Dane Hopkins. Dane Hopkins blasts onto the scene with flames shooting out of the boots of their mystically enhanced Sputnik power armor. Describe to us, Dane, what your armor looks like.
My armor, the helmet covers my whole head, and it used to be a dark gray, but has since turned white with splotches of... Actually, no, scratch that. It used to be gray and it is now black. I am the black sheep of the Sputnik family. And that fits perfectly because I wanted my character to have horns on their armor, and there are 2 curling ram's horns that just come back and then face around.
I love it.
There's some gold trimming on there, and I have big shoulder pauldrons. The elbows have 2 sharp-looking spikes. Nothing that is flair, but is pragmatic. And everything else just kind of fits to match. My knees are also spiked, and the toe of my boots as well.
And what do your weapons look like?
My sword is a 2-handed black greatsword. The handle is red. The cross is gold trimmed, and at the bottom are 2 faces of a ram's head. So trimmed in gold. The other 2 weapons that I have are just side pieces that are 2 hammers.
And how do you dispatch
That's it.
some of these foes? What do you do to... How do you express yourself in battle against these foes?
I charge in and shoulder check into the fray, and with my greatsword just start hemming and hawing just through the masses, making my way to the giant mechs to then start aiming for the weak points that I know are present on them.
You plow through the first platoon and collide with the side of one of the logging machines. And
The
with
cattail is perfectly timed. I'm sorry.
So, with 3 deft strikes, you sever each of its 3-bladed arms. And one final blow causes the engine to explode in a ball of fire. It doesn't singe your armor. Even if it did, it's already blacker than ash. Kayla, what does your armor look like?
So my armor is very sleek, very incredibly shiny, almost chromatic metal. It's all uniform, just metal. There's no fancy trim or anything like that. It's kind of slightly reminiscent of medieval knight armor, So it has a full helmet and big, wide shoulders and clunky boots. Yep.
And what do your weapons look like?
Weapons, I just have a singular longsword. It's obviously very well worn. Been beat to hell, to be honest. There's all kinds of scratches all over the hilt, and I also have a shield that matches my armor, like identical, chromatic and shiny. Yeah, those are my only weapons.
And how do you come into this fight?
I come charging in after Dane, and I'm just like screaming, "Ah!" and just charge at the nearest troopers.
So, tell me something about your fighting style. How does it express your personality?
It's very passionate, and very much my main concern is keeping as many of the troopers busy and occupied so that my comrades can go take care of the larger mechs. And I'm also looking out for those that are with me and making sure that I can defend them if necessary.
Very good. So you come in and tear through several of the troopers before diving in shield first to prevent one of the giant drills from colliding with Dane's back. And it spins and sparks fly up from your shield, but you're resolute and stand firm and press back until the drill's engine gives out. And with a dismissive shove, you toss the drill end over end. Verdant, what does your armor look like?
It's impossible to tell because there's a more or less verdant-shaped hole in reality that is just a black void, tendrils of shadow drifting off of it in every direction. The only feature is glowing purple eyes. And as if it doesn't exist, this apparition slips out of the trees, either the trees moving out of the way or the apparition moving through the trees. Again, very difficult to tell. A word in a language that's never been spoken whispers across the clearing, lost into the hum of machinery and the din of battle. And a wickedly curved blade of solid starlight springs into being as the figure silently heads for the machinery. Not to destroy it, but to overpower it and turn it to the cause of dispatching its former masters. Tendrils of shadow snake way into the machines and begin turning giant blades against drills and armor rather than the trees and the world.
The battle continues as the camera watching it pans out further and further until we see the entire jungle We see the continent. We back out further and we see the oceans and then the planet. To a satellite floating in the sky above. As we see inside the satellite, there are several Sputnik officers working on various computers. One of them turns over his shoulder. Sir, we have confirmation they have arrived on scene and are attacking the installation.
Those miserable earthlings. Don't they understand? We don't even have this material ourselves. So selfish of them. Send reinforcements.
Shall we ready you for launch?
Immediately.
And we see several drop pods fired from the satellite. As well as a mechanical power suit. Dietrich, what does your mech look like?
Once upon a time, it would have looked similar to Dane Hopkins's, but much more to the original blueprint. And with several silver star-like emblazons onto the side, indicating a position of authority. It is uniform gray with a particularly stylized white stripe along the helmet.
And what weapons does it possess?
It possesses a fully automatic shoulder railgun, a close proximity flamethrower, highly volatile, as well as a extreme close quarters, high RPM chainsaw, and no sword.
Do you want to leave us with a suitable one-liner?
Brace for impact.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll be doing this again next week, 9 o'clock.